Lucky the Leprechaun, Count Chocula, those British wheat hooligans from the Weetabix commercials. Some dismiss them as kiddie shit, but in truth, these characters are our collective mythology and the closest thing to a shared lore we have. But when push comes to shove, which cereal mascot do you want in your corner? Whose cereal bending abilities make the others look like porridge mascots? I'm gonna be making a tier list to sort out which ones are the strongest, but I will only be judging original cereal mascots that aren't from other properties, to keep the list manageable and because, come on, Fred Flintstone's power level is unfair. Let's start in 1902 with Sunny Jim of Force Cereal. He was the first cereal mascot ever, if you trust me to be the guy who knows that. So Sunny Jim is actually a dude named Jim Dumps who, no, you know what? This verse from the ads will explain it. Jim Dumps was a most unfriendly man who lived his life on the hermit plan. In his gloomy way, he'd gone through life and made the most of woe and strife, till force one day was served to him. Since then, they've called him Sunny Jim. Okay, you know what? Maybe that wasn't clear. So there's this sad guy named Jim Dumps, and when he eats Force cereal, it turns him into Sunny Jim. Do you get that? Because everyone's clicking off this video right now, so I'm worried that no one's getting it. The Sunny Jim ad campaign was for some reason a world-shaking success. Printers Inc. stated in 1902 that no current novel or play is so universally popular. Sunny Jim is as well known as President Roosevelt or J. Pierpont Morgan. Oh, I just call him JP. From the book The Story of Advertising, Sunny Jim became an international character. Ministers preached sermons about him. Judges pointed morals from the bench by reference to his sterling qualities. I hereby sentence the defendant to 20 years in federal prison and an extra 5 for his Jim Dumps looking ass. Eat some Force cereal, loser. Right? So, while Sunny Jim has no discernible powers and looks like kind of just a rich piece of shit, with his sheer charisma that seems to have once healed our fair nation, let's get him at C tier. Next up, from Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, we have, oh, shit. Yep, I spent too long on the Jim Dumps thing. Oh. Hey, do you, need something? This isn't exactly what I had planned. I don't know if I'm really loving this energy, but I watched too many cereal commercials to just throw this out, so I'm gonna keep going unless there's something you want from me, or... Cool. So, Frosted Flakes. Hey, Tony. I like the things you do. We've all heard these words, but what is it that Tony the Tiger specifically does? Well, it depends on if he's had his Frosted Flakes and entered his supercharged state, which gives him super speed, power, and the ability to morph his body into any shape. Now's a good time to mention we will be considering these mascots in their post-cereal form, if possible, which is of course why I ranked Sunny Jim instead of Jim Dumps, who would curse the day that he was born when heavy dames stood on his corn. 100 years ago, that was a normal thing to hear on the radio. But while Tony is extremely powerful, he's not quite S tier, just because he was around for decades before he found his footing. His first "They're great" honestly sucked.
They're great!
Ugh, too much. Let's get him at A. Next up is Lucky the Leprechaun from Lucky Charms. Power level wise, Lucky is the Goku to beat. Lucky makes the Lucky Charms himself with his magic rainbow and imbues them with powers he can use for further magic. His short-lived hourglass marshmallows allow him to control time, and his swirled marshmallows allow him to teleport. The marketing team is not interested in limiting his mage abilities. We've seen him suck the color out of the world to make marshmallows and even conjure a plane out of nothing. A plane that might even be sentient, but I'm not gonna jump to that conclusion just because it has eyes. Might just be a plane with eyes on it. Lucky is one of the most powerful mascots out there with the widest range of abilities and is in the rare position to deny the kids his cereal, rather than the other way around. I think he's a great benchmark for an S-tier cereal mascot. So if Lucky is the Goku, then the Raisin Bran son is the Broku. He is the sun, so you'd think he's starting pretty much on the level of a god, but the only special abilities I saw in any of his commercials was him turning grapes into raisins and scooping them. And not even because it's his purpose or because he loves it, it's because this fucking guy tells him to.
Hello? More raisins. Guess it's rise and shine.
Why is the sun answering to this dude? And what kind of a power is turning grapes into raisins? I can turn grapes into raisins at home in a day. Congrats, you can do it slightly faster. The son's name is also Sonny, so I can't help but compare him to Sonny Jim, and he definitely falls more on the Jim Dumpian side. I cannot imagine a cereal mascot less powerful than this. He is an F. Crazy Craving is the name of the little imp from the honeycomb commercials, who seems to be a kind of demonic presence that possesses kids who want honeycomb, morphing them into his shape and forcing them to utter his catchphrase, "Me want honeycomb!" And if it's not demonic in nature, the implications are still terrifying. Do we all have the Crazy Craving virus in us, just waiting to be activated by the sighting of honeycomb cereal? Are we all already infected? We'll call him Emma Stone, because he's an easy A. Speaking of demons, let's get the monster cereals out of the way. Count Chocula and Frankenberry are always together, and almost all their commercials go like this. The two of them argue over whose cereal is better, they get scared by something innocuous, and then a voice peddles some dog shit piece of plastic.
Frankenberry. Count Chocula. Both you guys are batty.
It's a monster door knocker you can put together.
I suppose Count Chocula has regular vampire abilities, but we never see them. We're just going off of the wiki's unsourced claim that he's immortal. But how much stock do I put in immortality in this competition? Is Tony the Tiger gonna die of old age? I think they're all basically immortal. Frankenberry cereal had the magic ability to make people poop Frankenberry pink that one time in the 70s. Man, pink poop, that must have made the shocker really confusing. Please keep watching. But these two are weak. The only time I've seen them exercise any attempt at anything is when Boo Berry came out and they seismic slammed his ass and roasted him with Fruit Brute's a wolf and he has a booming howl loud enough to scare Count and Franken away, but these two are scared by everything, so not much to go on there.
Hi.
And then there's Yummy Mummy, whose only ability is cereal bending, which does not count for much with me. Half these fools can make their cereal float around. I'm gonna put this whole squad together at D tier, though the commercials did have the supernatural ability to dare and call this shit nutritious. Diggum Frog from Honey Smacks is, how do I say this? Not poised for success in this evaluation. He can fly, kind of, but like the cereal bending, pretty much every one of these guys can fly when they smell the cereal. It's not even worth noting. His main thing seems to be puns, and really the dregs, just the worst stuff you could do with that.
You know a lot about Honey Diggum. What kind of grades did you get?
B's.
Kellogg's Honey Smacks.
Here he makes a weak pun.
What's wrong with that frog's airplane?
Engine croak.
And the dad just rolls his eyes. It's clear he doesn't see Diggum Frog as the slightest threat to him or his family. And the cereal itself does not pick up the slack. In this commercial, he has to beg these kids who think Honey Smacks look disgusting to just forget how they look and try them anyway.
Won't you give him a chance?
I have searched desperately for another way to say this, but there are simply no other words for it. It's an absolutely cucked commercial. The only thing resembling a power he has is he can interact with the other frog on the box of Honey Smacks, but so what? Together they have the power of 2 frogs? I hate to say it, because I know there's a lot of nostalgia and love out there for this cereal and this character, but Diggum Frog is ending up at F tier. Diggum Frog is F tier. Are you gonna kill me? Diggum Frog is C tier. Diggum Frog is A tier? Okay, I guess this thing really likes the Honey Smacks frog. Well, next up we have the Cuckoo Bird from Cocoa Puffs, who is the 3rd mascot named Sonny. Man, watch out, Sonny Jim. Just kidding, I won't ever let you come to harm. His abilities are debatable. He flies around and bounces off stuff when he sees the cereal, which is a very common cartoon mascot ability, but he is especially fast, possibly bordering on a Quicksilver type moveset. The premise of most of his commercials is that he tries to stop exposing himself to his Cocoa Puffs addiction, but he succumbs time after time, usually due to pressure from his peers. He then turns into a madman, howling about how he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He has so much trouble controlling his craving that he once tried to file a restraining order against Cocoa Puffs in court, where the judge went on to find Cocoa Puffs guilty of being delicious. Now that may seem fucked up, but I'll remind you, this is our justice system working as intended. Sonny seems completely out of control, but to me, his power level is elevated by the one time he managed to embed himself as a science advisor in the Toucan government, while secretly working with a chocolate terror cell, unleashing a chocolate bomb on a group of high-ranking military personnel. That's gotta earn Sonny at least a C. This is one bird who's cuckoo for domestic terrorism. Are we all good with the C? All right. So while Sonny is addicted to Cocoa Puffs to the point where it's clearly impacting his life and the evil characters he surrounds himself with still trick him into eating it, the Trixx Rabbit has no enablers in his life. He just likes Trixx cereal and no one will share it with him. In addition to regular cartoon movement abilities, the Trixx Rabbit uses various disguises in attempts to steal the cereal, which the kids always see right through, humiliating him as the commercial ends.
Silly rabbit.
Yeah, tricks are for kids.
Yes, sir.
But importantly for gauging his power, there were times where he did successfully eat Trixx. Both occasions were the result of a nationwide vote, the first being held in 1976.
Trixx, I'm having it as part of this good, nutritious breakfast.
Well, I can too if you vote yes.
I'm voting no.
Despite the biased advertisements fitting of any national voting campaign, yes votes won in an absolute landslide because decades of marketing have failed to provide one salient reason that Trixx should just be for kids. The other time he got to eat it was after the commercial where he won the tour to Trixx and the judges deliberated whether he should get the prize he earned by winning. Now, is the Trixx Rabbit stronger than other mascots for getting to actually eat the cereal, or weaker because it takes a nation of kids voting for him to get one bowl? I think his success being so out of his hands makes him pretty weak. He's looking like a D for me. Let's move on to Sugar Bear from Golden Crisp. As someone who has no memory of hearing his voice, hearing it for the first time was not what I expected.
Help, Sugar Bear! Me and Mr. Winter is freezing our summer.
I'll sweeten him up with super sugar.
Back in the 80s, he had the ability to turn into a sort of super bear, a form along the lines of Tony the Tiger's supercharged mode. But from the 90s onward, he became more of an inventor, putting together gadgets that let him successfully steal Golden Crisp directly from the factory. This makes him pretty strong and retroactively makes other cereal-seeking characters weaker. This guy wants it and gets it, commercial after commercial. I see no misses when it comes to this guy, but looking at S tier, I can't help but think about how Lucky from Lucky Charms could flay this bear alive as a sacrifice to whichever pagan god Lucky prays to. So I think he fits in well at A tier. Cap'n Crunch. Now this is a seafaring captain with an iconic look. So again, what do you expect his voice to sound like? Maybe like a pirate or something? Because I'm guessing it's not this.
No! One more crunchy mouthful of that Cap'n Crunch cereal, and they'll hear us for sure.
His incredibly fast ship has a full crew, although they are kids, so they're not crazy strong. He can summon an elephant with his peanut butter crunch, and he has an Inspector Gadget-style helicopter hat that also turns into a fishing rod and a bunch of other stuff. Overall, it's a pretty cool suite of tools to work with, but low physical strength keeps him at a B? Is that alright with everyone? I'm sorry. I'm pretty in my head about making sure this thing isn't gonna end me. It's kind of getting in the way of this process a little bit, or at least my ability to enjoy it. I'm just gonna try not to think about it. Cookie Crisp was the original cereal to challenge the claim you can't have dessert for breakfast with not dessert candy, dessert puff cereal, a comeback which parents have yet to recover from. There have been a lot of Cookie Crisp mascots, but only the first one, Cookie Jarvis, has any abilities to speak of. Cookie Jarvis is a wizard who can turn bowls into cookie jars and kids into more wizards, plus he has the power to put even more chocolate chips in Cookie Crisp cereal. Cookie Jarvis is a soft B. I want to say, as a wizard, he probably has more abilities than we've seen, but he does go by Cookie Jarvis, so maybe that's really it. Cookie Crook was introduced in a crossover with Cookie Jarvis and soon replaced him. Cookie Crook can skateboard, but so can every one of these motherfuckers for some reason. Plus, he falls right into the back of his nemesis Cookie Cop's paddy wagon. Cookie Crook is a deep F. Since Cookie Cop defeats him every time, that makes the cop higher up on the tier list by default, right? Maybe even A tier, or C tier. Actually, A tier. No, B tier, I think. Oh, you didn't like that one? You know, I don't even know if I'm interpreting you right. Can you groan if you are actually mad at me when you're groaning? Okay, so I've been wrong. Can you groan if I've been wrong? Can you just groan if you understand me? Can you groan if you understand me, but you're not willing to groan just because I told you to groan? No, I get why that wouldn't work. Cookie Crook was quickly joined by a new partner, Chip the dog, who soon dropped the burglar mask and replaced him as the flagship character, which continued the trend of each successive Cookie Crisp mascot disposing of the previous one off screen. Chip the dog has nearly no abilities besides launching the cookies like Gambit. Let's get him at D tier. For dog. He was replaced by Chip the Wolf after they predicted a really clever YouTuber would make fun of how a dog is eating chocolate in the commercials. This new Chip is mainly an inventor, I guess? I think he's also a good fit for D tier. For DILF. Weetabix, for those who don't know, are some extremely British bullshit. It's a bland cereal you eat 2 massive units at a time, like the size of McDonald's hash browns. And it's for people who got really hungry looking at the Snowpiercer protein blocks. Their mascots are the Weetabix Skinheads. I'm sorry, that's what they're called. A marauding gang with the tagline, "If you know what's good for you, Weetabix." Easily the most ominous catchphrase I've ever heard, and game-changing marketing. Burger King. It'd be a shame if something happened to your beautiful daughter Jessica. There's obviously a lot of implied violence that this group gets up to when people won't eat their Weetabix, but the only abilities I could discern beyond roughing people up is one time when they had various high fantasy roles and fought a big monster called Emptiness. A powerful metaphor because that's their other branding angle. The cereal that fills you up. Congrats, you're a food. I didn't know we had to call that out. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, and when you put it in your stomach, you stop being hungry afterwards. Does that answer all your questions? I think the Weetabix Skinheads can hold their own in the B tier. Snap, Crackle, and Pop from Rice Krispies, first off, are the only mascots I've seen use a gun.
Sure, go for more to your grocery store for Kellogg's Good Rice Krispies. They snap, crackle, and pop.
They are known to do some magic crap that I simply cannot parse through 100 layers of YouTube compression. I think they make all the stuff on the table become cartoons and dance. In the 90s, the 3 were turned into superheroes, given super strength as well as the ability to fly even without any cereal around at all. And here they catch a criminal in the act and the commercial simply cuts ahead to him unconscious. God knows how brutal that must have been for them to censor it. That definitely ratchets them up a bit. I mean, what'd they do to him? That was too brutal to show. Snap his neck, crackle his legs, pop his pussy. Really, that's what I'm going with. And why am I leaving it in the video? They even took on a clay form for a bit where they could do stretchy stuff like this. So these 3 have had just about every superpower I've seen a mascot have. It's hard to see them anywhere but S on this list. Buzz, the Cheerios bee, has his Honey Blast ability, but mostly just wins foes over with the taste of his cereal. He's challenged and defeated many iconic characters this way, including Shrek, Scrooge, and Grumpy Cat. Him and Grumpy Cat even invented the joke from Dune together.
Smile, Gurney.
Not even a smile?
I am smiling.
Although, I can't erase history, he did get absolutely clowned on when he went toe-to-toe with Garfield, but who wouldn't? I think he's a good fit for B tier for obvious reasons. He always be shooting people with his Honey Blast ability. Cinnamon Toast Crunch's first mascot was just 3 chefs, 3 regular dudes. So what do you think their power level is? D, for dudes. Am I doing that too much? Then they went down to 1 chef, just Chef Wendell. The cereal wiki has no info on their fate, just ominously saying Wendell used to make the cereal with 2 other chefs. So I guess Wendell is 1/3 of the group's power level. What's 1/3 of D? I guess we can just round that up to F, or down to F? Their new mascot is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch pieces themselves, and forget their old slogan, the taste you can see. Since 2009, it's been crave those crazy squares. I don't want to be one of those YouTubers who just describes a thing and then goes, oh, so that's not good, but look at it. Crave those crazy squares. What kind of Ford Drive One bullshit is that? But wait, craving something crazy? Could these be disciples of the Honeycomb Crazy Craving? Let's move Honeycomb up to S out of just terror. Fruit Loops' Toucan Sam and his 3 nephews go on adventures around the world looking for Fruit Loops. To do this, they take advantage of Sam's serial tracking abilities. Besides that, he's just a plain old talking toucan with regular toucan abilities. Surprisingly little to dig into for such an iconic character. His adventures seem fun, but he's an F. He would get fried by anyone on this list. But points because his sibling had sex at some point. Applejacks are represented by Apple and Cinnamon, who are enemies racing to be the focal flavor of their cereal, with Cinnamon always getting the upper hand and making it to the bowl first. But in one commercial, they get fused together and learn each other's perspective and start to get along. After they get unstuck a few commercials later, their rivalry becomes much more friendly. It's very sweet. Apparently, this whole arc was because of a lawsuit from the Children's Advertising Review Unit, who thought it fucked that they made apples the villains of their ad campaign. Fair. Their racing abilities don't elevate them too much, but the power of their friendship can't be overlooked. So I'm thinking B tier? Of course, this rating is complicated because Cinnamon seems like a pretty offensive Jamaican stereotype. Why can't I say that? Okay, you know what? I have no clue what you are or what you want from me. I'm just reacting out of reflex because you're too intimidating for me to consider rationally. But the thing is, if you were gonna hurt me, you would have done it already. So why do I care? I'm so over it. Diggum Frog is F tier. He's literally just a talking frog. I could kill him, like that. Anyone could. Toucan Sam could eat him, dead. Raisin Bran Son, crush him with raisins, dead. The Cookie Crook, he could skateboard over him on accident, easily dead. Wait, no, please. Ah! Actually, gravity and everything's pretty normal in here. It's just weird to see the outside spinning like that. Guess I'll probably just be spinning until I warp next. So, who's your favorite cereal mascot? Leave it in the comments down below. And I guess let's kill some time by going through some honorable mentions, the short-lived mascots who weren't worth having a segment about. There was Kellogg's Big Mix, who was a chicken, wolf, moose, pig combo. His only discernible power was eating a basketball. I guess he read this classic basketball poster in the wrong order. You got that one? There's Kellogg's Choco's the Bear. I could only find one commercial with him and he does nothing, but I guess a brown bear is inherently at least like a C. Kellogg's Cornelius Rooster is just a rooster with a rich guy's name, but it's worth noting that the sun in his commercials could demolish the Raisin Bran Sun in every arena, especially the bedroom. Freakies had 7 horrible little creatures who gathered around the Freakies tree and were nourished by its cereal. Freakies existed for 4 years, half a century ago. I have nothing to say about it. Quisp was a little space psycho who sounded like the frog from The Pest.
Fortunately, there's always time for a bowl of crisp cereal.
Smash, see? Nobody messing with the frog, see? What's your sign now?
Oh. Shit. Any Honey Smacks fans out there? For me, I love the frog. You know, I think he's just so cool. Really strong.